Hello and welcome to Whisky.com, where fine spirits meet. And today I'm in the Western Highlands. Yes, I'm still on the mainland. Yes, this is not just an island tour, but also a mainland tour. And a Western Highland distillery called Ardnamurchan lives here. And it's fantastic. Behind me is Loch Sunart, another peninsula is back then, so that's the mainland. And after that, there is the Isle of Mull. And let's go down to the distillery and find out what it's all about. Let's talk about the history of the Ardnamurchan Distillery. The mother company is the Adelphi Distillers, or the Adelphi Company, and they are an independent bottler. They are the child of Jamie Walker, who founded the company in 1993, and Jamie Walker is the grandson or grand-grandson of Archibald Walker, who founded the Adelphi Distillery in Glasgow in, I think, 1826. Back in the day, it was a huge distillery in Glasgow. It actually had a huge accident, and then business went down, and yeah, it's not there anymore. Now on that ground is a different building. I think it's the mosque that is being built there, but yeah, that was back in the days. So our story begins in 1993 with the Adelphi independent bottler being created, and he did independent bottling. And at one time, Keith and Donald, two guys, were coming to him, and they wanted to buy a cask. And he was, yeah, I don't know if he was older or if he's not happy with the business, and they wanted to buy a cask. They ended actually up buying his company. So that then the company went to them, and they continued with the company. And yeah, so the independent bottling is a bit difficult nowadays because there's not that much cask switching going on, and buying casks is really difficult. So being an independent bottler is a bit difficult. So they said, we need a steady cask supply. How do we do that? We need a distillery. So the brainchild was in 2007, 2008, around there. So they started planning, they started paperwork and stuff. And the first spade in the ground was 2012. And they actually got their license 2013, and they started running in 2014. So they started running, and they actually did sell a few of the spirits and on their way and stuff like that. And in 2020, they came out with their first whiskey, and that was quite a big deal for Ardnamurchan. They had their first whiskey on the market. They experimented a little bit, so they did a bit of a batches going on, 1, 2, 3, 4 batches, and now they are in 22, and they are getting more into more of a core range that is there all the time. They found their style more or less, and they're still doing experiments. They're probably going to extend their core range, their special bottling and other stuff, but I'm going to tell you that in the production. The start of the whiskey making is at the mash tun. And let's talk a little bit about the ingredients. The malt. Yeah, we have two types of malt. We have an unpeated and a peated one. Here we have a peated one. It's not that strong of a peat. Now that it's open, it becomes even stronger in here with the peat. But the peat has about 30 ppm. But they're now actually experimenting a little bit with 80 ppm. So that might come out in like 3 to 5 years or something like that. The brands or the types of barley are also interesting. We have a Laureate brand, which is kind of switching out. Then we have Sassy, and then we also have very interesting, that's why I'm mentioning it here, they actually do use Golden Promise, which is an older, they even call it a historic type of barley malt, and that is smaller. You have to adjust the mill, and it doesn't have that big of a yield, so it's more expensive. That's why the distilleries don't really like it as an economical wise, but they do love it because the Golden Promise gives you a bit more of an oilier spirit, and then just more interesting, more oldest type of spirit, and that is really cool. So they use that here as well, but it's difficult. If you have so many different types of barley that you use, you have to adjust the rakes, you have to adjust the mill, so it's a bit more work to do, but you get something really nice in the end. The mash tun is filled with 2 tons of barley grist, and then you come in with the water. The first water is 8,600 liters, the second one is 3,600, and that gives you roughly 10,000 liters of wort, which is a really sugary, starchy substance, whereas the starches are nearly all broken down by the enzymes, and that gets off to the production. But it's not finished. What you do is you fill it with another about 7,000 liters of water, and they wash out all the last starches and sugars out from the draft, and then you collect it, and that water is not enough for the fermentation. So what you do is you just use it during the next run as your first water, so you have already a bit of sugar in your first water, and that's really a most efficient way. The draft actually goes out and goes to farmers, and they feed cattle, so it's a really nice way of conserving all your material. And talking about conserving, the water that goes out actually has to be cooled down, and they do that through a heat exchanger, but instead of just taking out the heat, they actually exchange the heat to the new water that they bring in. So when you take out the water, you actually have to bring in the new water that is being then heated up, so you don't have to put in that much heat into the new water. So you're conserving energy. That is really bringing down costs, environmentally friendly. You don't have to produce so much energy for all the mashing. After that, we have 10,000 liters that are going on into the fermentation. This here are the washbacks, and we have 7 of them. They're all filled with 10,000 liters. They have 14,000 liters of capacity, at least the wooden ones, and that's why they don't have any switcher blades. I think the steel ones are a little bit smaller, so that's why they have the switcher blades to just strike down the foam. They are a bit different. So the temperatures that the wort is kind of come in is a bit different because of the insulation, and here is a bit more insulated. Here the energy or the warmth can travel out much faster, so here you usually go in a little bit colder because they then reach higher temperatures slower. In terms of slow and the fermentation duration, they go between 72 hours, and because they don't work on Sunday, that one is 96 hours because it takes 1 day longer. It can't be distilled because you don't work on Sunday. And then we have the difference between all of these washbacks, and that is really interesting. As you can see, the third down the line is really old, and that is really different. I always wondered, why don't they use oak for the washbacks? Why do they use Douglas fir or Oregon pine? Here they use Douglas fir, but I think the trees are very similar. And the third one is now oak. It's an ex-cognac vat. They used to have 4 ex-cognac vats, but they already replaced 3 of them. And the third one is really not good because it bulges at the bottom. So why is it that you can really make really good casks out of oak, and you can't make any good washbacks out of oak? And that is because of the treatment. Usually when you have casks, you have 60% alcohol. Here you only have between 0 from the wort and about 8% alcohol. That is totally different. And then there is the part which destroys the oak, and that is the steam cleaning. You cannot steam clean an oak container for very long. It just gets destroyed. And that's why the cognac vat is good for vatting cognac, but not for actually washback, because you have to steam clean it, and this one will also be replaced in a short amount of time. After the 72 hours, you have a very orchard fruity wash. So it's really green apple, kind of that kind of vibe going on. What is really interesting is you have two different kind of wash. You have the peaty one and you have the non-peaty one, and they actually do treat it differently. Whereas the peaty one gets distiller's yeast, 12 kilograms, and the non-peaty one, they do 6 kilograms of distiller's yeast, and then also 6 kilograms of a brewer's yeast, which gives you more kind of interesting flavors and also more fruity flavors, and that's what you're looking at here at the fermentation. And after that, it's off into the still room. Now I'm at the center of the distillery, the still room, and we have the wash still. It's a normal wash still, 10,000 liters is being filled into it, and they're actually being manually handled. You have a watch glass to see when they boil over. So yeah, the wash still runs pretty fast. That's usual, that's traditional. You run it pretty fast. And where the magic is, where it happens at the spirit still, where really the flavors are separated. We have a 6,000 liter spirit still, and that is quite sizable. Let me come back to that, why that is. You have a pretty tall still, you have a reflux bowl, so that's a good separation for the alcohol, much reflux. There's a lot of copper contact of the alcohol vapors, and that makes the spirit finer and better. And what they do here is they run the foreshots pretty fast, and then they slow down the distillation, and they do their lower or their cuts a bit higher. So what they want to have is a bit of a finer spirit, more refined, more quality, and you achieve that with slower distillation, better alcohol separation, more copper contact, as I said, and also when you have the higher the second cutting point a bit higher, then you get less of the bitter, strong stuff into your new make and more of the finer, higher stuff that has been distilled first into the new make. So that's how they end up with their spirit and what they are looking for in their spirit. And yeah, that is pretty much the distillation and how they end up with their style. But here at the Ardnamurchan Distillery, they actually do look a lot about their environmental responsibility, and what they did a number of things. The first thing is their cooling tower. They have a tower where they actually collect the heat that comes off from the condensers, and that gives them more possibilities to conserve energy and conserve water. At the very beginning, they didn't have that, and they had just had the cooling pond outside, so they were using about 400,000 liters a day. And now it actually goes down, with that new system, with the cooling tower, it goes down to 20,000 liters a day, plus water usage, plus the energy they're conserving. And what the second thing what they installed is 100% renewable energy. So where does the energy that they actually do need, because they need some energy get into the system, they can't recycle everything, that energy is actually coming from wood chips. So they have a wood chip boiler, and that produces steam, but then they thought about it even deeper with a lot of engineers, and they actually built an accumulator that is actually accumulating steam at 6 bar pressure. And that is really handy because they can actually have the boiler a bit less in size, and the boiler can work at a very, very constant rate, which is the most efficient way of running that boiler, and that charges the accumulator. And that accumulator has then more pressure or less pressure depending on what is necessary to be used here at the distillery. And there are about 3 points or 4 points where you use steam here at the distillery. You have the wash still, you have the spirit still, then you have the mash tun, and sometimes you need a little bit of steam cleaning. So that's where you need a steam. So the accumulator is kind of, think of it as a battery. So you charge the battery at a constant rate, that's very efficient, and then you can take out whenever you want. And the peaks of what you need when you have the spirit still on full steam, that is a big peak for you as a demand, can be done by the accumulator in a very nice way. So that is now the new make spirit, and let's see how that is filled into the cask and then matured in the warehouses. I always love these takes in the warehouse because it just smells so nice of so much oak and so much whiskey. The distillery has 7 warehouses on site. They're all dunnage warehouses with stamped earth floor, the casks not stacked up that high, and the region around here is a coastal region, very humid, not as hot in summer, not as cold in winter, so perfect for maturing Scotch whiskey. And in terms of cask variation, they have quite a number of bourbon casks, but also quite a number of sherry casks. This here is cask number 1, and it's a sherry cask from Jerez. They have good connections there. So at the distillery, they have good variation between American oak, spicy European oak, and that gives you a perfect combination for blending. They have some nice casks as well for experimentational purposes, a rum cask, Madeira cask, so they can do a bit more exclusive bottlings and have a look how that turns out with their whiskey. And so at the beginning they did batches, so they could marry and blend all their whiskeys together to get the flavor, and they kind of varied a bit between the batches and got the flavor now right. So now they are continuously bringing out the products that have more of a constant flavor to that. The warehouses are quite full, so they are already in a cycle where they have casks going in, also a lot of casks going out, because they can't really build more warehouses, or not planning to build more warehouses in the near future. What is also really interesting is here you have private casks at the distillery. So there is a private cask program. It's quite full. I've heard that there's already a waiting list where you can buy a cask, or I think you buy the inside of the cask and you can rent the space here, have it lay there for 7, 10, maybe longer times. That's, I think, negotiable with the distillery. And then in the end, they bottle it for you, and then you have your own cask in bottles on a pallet, and they ship it then to you. So that is really, really cool. And that is now pretty much the end of the distillery. And now let's have a try with their products. So I'm sitting here with Jenny Carlson, and you've been here at Ardnamurchan for 2.5 years.
Yeah.
But actually 18 years within the whiskey industry.
That sounds long.
And you've already, and you've studied brewing and distilling before that. So you are really into whiskey industry.
I am into it. I've been in here now for almost 2 decades. I can't believe that.
Oh yeah.
Working it out.
Yeah, that is amazing. So yeah, thank you very much for having us here at the distillery. It's been so great.
Thank you. No, thank you for coming. It's quite a far way to go, so we appreciate your visit.
Yeah, it is quite far away. So you already have quite a number of spirits before, and now whiskey. And so what are we having today?
Well, I thought since you've seen the process, you should try our core product. So our single malt is called Ardnamurchan Single Malt. Quite simple. That's our core whiskey. So I thought we'll try that one today.
Okay.
It's very representative of the area we're in. So we're on the west coast of Scotland. Really, you can't get any further west than you are right now.
Okay.
We use 2 types of spirits, peated and unpeated. So 50% is peated and 50% is unpeated in this.
Okay. So you're taking these 2 spirits that you made and blending them together into one single malt. Okay.
Yeah.
And you have something nice on the bottle, obviously in front, everything that, even the location of the distillery, and you have a QR code on the back.
We have a QR code, yes.
So what does it do?
So we decided to embrace technology. So scan this code for anybody really that's curious about our whiskey. You scan the code and it tells you what number of bottle you are holding. It gives you full transparency of the process of making this whiskey. So we call it our storybook. So it's linked to the blockchain that we use when we upload information from production. So the guys will put information onto the blockchain, and we can then take the information and share it with our consumers. So you don't get every single detail because it would be a long book. But what you get is like how long it took to ferment.
But you even get the barley brand or strain, or yes.
Like a little sort of a bit of information about each stage of making the whiskey, including what casks were used when we were maturing it. So it gives you the vintage, it gives you the year, because it doesn't say this is 5 or 6 or 7 years old. We're not on age statements. I don't think we will be. It's something that we want the whiskey to talk for itself.
Yeah, you could say you're an age statement whiskey because it's written on here.
Exactly. Well, you can figure it out, but it doesn't have a big 10 on the label.
It doesn't have a big 10 yet.
and so 65% is matured in bourbon casks and 35 in sherry casks. So it is quite predominantly bourbon matured. But yes, so let's see what we think.
Ooh,
yeah,
quite fruity.
It is. We really strive for that sort of orchard fruit on the initial nose.
Yeah, orchard fruit and the initial nose, but it's strange because that is strangely what goes on with peat is
it's that mineralic, sort of a bit of mineral at the back.
Yes, definitely. But the intensity is also very confusing because it's not no peat, but it's not heavily peated. It's just
sort of lingering. We call it, and we have a little laugh because I'm part of the blending team. So we're always looking for the lurking peat. We call it lurking peat. It sounds a bit naughty, but it's basically what we're looking for. So what you're describing there is lurking peat. But yes, absolutely. And it's, you know, when you have beach pebbles, so you get like the little bit of the salt on the pebbles, but it's kind of that mineralic beach pebbles.
Yes, it has a bit of a coastal feeling to it, definitely. And it's somewhere in between lightly peated, slightly peated, and medium, somewhere in between there.
Yeah. So throughout the process, we discussed the way that we malt our barley, and it's 30 ppm, but it's only half of the barley in here.
So half of it 30 and half of it none?
Non-peated, yeah.
Oh, okay, nice, okay.
So now let's try some.
Yeah, slouch it.
Slouch it. Absolutely. I absolutely love it.
Oh, a bit more peaty on the palate.
The peat comes at the end very much.
Oh, yeah.
And the more you swirl it around and the more oxygen you let in there, the more that peat repeats itself. It's like a bonfire on the beach.
So this is a proper medium peated whiskey, I would say. Yeah.
But really typical West Coast. We are right there, like on the beach.
And a good amount of sweetness.
Yeah, the balance is there.
Fresh fruits definitely in there. Some slight notes of dried fruits as well. And a bit of that sherry kicking in a little bit. It's a well-balanced, but I would say it's a lighter one.
Yeah,
definitely
so
a lighter one.
We're thinking, well, this would be, if I had scanned the code, I wouldn't know exactly the age of this whiskey, but I think it's 2016, casks from 2015, 2016. So that means it'll be 5-6 years old. So it is lighter. It doesn't have that intense long finish, but it's one of these whiskies that you want to have again and again and again.
Yeah, it's nice.
So this is what we were striving for. It was always the plan with building this distillery was we wanted to represent the area in flavour and we wanted to look after the area as well.
Oh, yeah, I like it. I've had more of the coastal and I have to say the region here is a bit more lighter and definitely the whole fermentation, longer fruitiness, that is nice, lovely.
And it's really, really waxy. I mean, the way it coats the inside of your cheeks. Like I always look at the glass and I imagine that being the inside of my cheeks. It really coats you. For a young whiskey, a very waxy whiskey. Good waxy.
I like it. Yeah. Good start, I would say. Good start. And yeah, like it's more than a start. I think the other ones that beforehand, they were the intermediates. Yeah. One thing I've missed out with the video was your sign with your gate. There's a man dancing there and it's iconic. I think I've seen it somewhere else or in the hotel already. So what's up with that?
With the dancing man. Well, we're surrounded by the dancing man.
So that's called the dancing man.
He looks quite scary, I always thought. Before I joined the company, I said to Alex Bruce, our managing director, he's a bit scary looking. So this is William Gladstone, who was Prime Minister of the UK in the 1860s. He was also a friend of whiskey. Like he couldn't get enough of whiskey. That was his hobby and his biggest love. So his plan, or he always strived to make whiskey sales easier for the distilleries. So he abolished the malt tax and what we call the angel share tax. So instead of paying tax on you fill a cask with spirit, before you had to pay tax for that spirit while it was lying maturing in the warehouse, while it was losing Angel's shares. I mean, you know, Scottish people, they're not going to want to pay for nothing. Do you know what I mean? So he abolished the tax for that. And there was a cartoon magazine, famous satirical magazine called The Punch, or Punch Magazine. So when this tax was abolished, he featured in this magazine, and the feature, the cartoon, is the one of him dancing, and we've adopted that as our logo. So you see that as the Adelphi logo more.
So he's a Scotsman, or did he?
He's English.
He's English, but he got the
Oh, but he loves well. Actually, I say he's English. I assume he's English. He could have been Scottish, but do you know what? There's a statue of him in Edinburgh. Maybe he is Scottish.
Maybe he's Scottish, but maybe he's
British.
Just
Let's
British.
say he's British. But he does love whiskey. That's the main feature, because this is why he decided to make it easier for whiskey.
I know countries that still tax before casks. That is really, in terms of whiskey, it's really bad for the quality, isn't it? Because if you have a very young whiskey that's just been in 3 years, you don't have that much English here. And if you have a really old whiskey, that would be horrible.
It would force distilleries to bottle at 3 years in a day, because it has to mature for 3 days. I mean, who wants to do that? You want that. So he was
quite brilliant in that guy.
Yeah, he was amazing. We're big fans of that policy. We think that worked.
Yeah, so Dancing Man is the symbol for abolishing the tax on the malt. Yeah, that was in, what was it, 1860? So
yeah, 1860s. Apparently, he was the prime minister 4 times, but this was during one of his terms as a prime minister. He abolished his tax. So he could keep drinking whiskey and not having to pay for his nose for it. He had a big nose.
Okay, that's good. So the next one, you already have more bottlings.
So I wanted you to try the core, so you get the idea of where we are, the area. And while we've been blending this, so we launched in 2020, the blending team knew there was something in the cask strength version of it, because we always tried the whiskey at the cask strength. So the dream was always to put the cask strength in bottle too. So our core range is the single malt and then our limited releases. And this is our second batch cask strength. Actually, this is the first batch. No, this is the second batch, sorry. It's the first. Sorry, I'm being silly. First batch of cask strength that we bottled in February this year. Now, 95% of this...
So does it also have a barcode on it? Okay, every bottle has one.
All the Ardnamurchan bottles will have a QR code on the back of them, and you can get the information on that bottle in there.
Okay, nice.
So with these batches, the single malt batches are usually about 25,000 bottles around the world, but the limited releases vary. So they can be anything from 5,000 to 12,000 bottles. I think I should probably have scanned this code, because there's probably about 8,000 bottles of this around the world. I'll get exact now if I don't know the exact. But yes, so there is more of this one. And because it's cask strength, you must be careful. The single malt is 46.8%. This one is 58.7%.
Well, that's quite strong.
It is.
Is that filled with water?
It is. So do the usual, like have a nose and try it. And then if you feel it needs water, then you add water. But the combination in here is that 95% is peated casks. Only 5% are unpeated.
So this is closer to 30.
Yeah, much closer to 30. And I think the figures are almost similar. If it's 93 or 94% is bourbon matured. So there's more bourbon. It's very bourbon led, but it's also peaty. Okay. Peatier. And I'd love to see your face when you try it, because people have a funny
I love the idea what you've set up here with 30 ppm and 0 ppm, and now there are some experiments with 80. And that is really nice if you're a blender, isn't it?
Yes, we have such great... I mean, the consistency of our casks have been phenomenal from 2014, which is quite unusual. We're young still. But yes, you're right. Even with the experiments, we do go back and try them after a year and 2 years just to see how they develop.
And you just have more possibilities to go into different directions of styles, okay?
Now, don't get me wrong. We're not crazy, but we do like to experiment. Like, we've got tequila casks, and we've got the Paul champagne casks, and we do, we like to experiment.
Oh yeah, the champagne cask. It sounds crazy. Oh, it actually looks, smells a bit easier for me on the nose. It's much more of a vanilla touch. That vanilla touch is great,
isn't it?
And it does have a bit of a phenolic, medicinal smoke to it.
Yeah.
But the smoke is a bit one of these hiding whiskeys. I guess there's enough in the whiskey, but when you try it, it's a bit hiding for 30 ppm. The other one,
I think it's like a comforting blanket. You know you're going to be warm with this whiskey. You know, I'm nosing it. I know that that's a nice warm woolen blanket. I know that's going to warmth that is coming my way with this.
I love it. Yeah, it's nice.
But you're right with the vanilla. It's funny because it's very peaty for us, but it is only 30 ppm. You're right. But that bourbon is so strong in there, like the maturation that does the vanillas.
I'm a bit daring today, so I'll have a little sip.
It's been a tough day, hasn't it?
Pretty brown for 58. Oh, now it comes on. Ooh, glowing.
It's kind of the end there, the peat.
Oh, now here comes the peat. Okay, yes, it's the 31.
Yeah, and you take a breath in, you really feel that mental, like the glacier mental mints.
It just develops. And yeah, it's a bit, it feels a little bit, it has a bit of a bonfire medicinal smoke mixture to it.
Yeah.
You do have the bit of a, like that smoldering bonfire, but also a bit of a dry note to it. Maybe that's also have a bit of a fresh note in it as well. Okay, this is for a young whiskey, it's pretty complex.
Again, the bottles from here, the casks from here are from 2016.
16. Okay, that's quite some time already.
If you add water, you'd probably find there's a technique to that one. Well done, you find that. You put your finger in a hole. I find that the peat in this one is really gentle, even though it is such a.
But it
opens it up. Exactly.
That's one that needs opening a lot more. But the bonfire opens up. The medicinal is nearly surpassed or nearly gone. More bonfire going on. Oh, that's a bonfire near the sea. Yeah, that's a nice bonfire near the sea
on that beach.
Yeah, that's a coastal whiskey. Yeah.
It's really earthy, really minerally after the water addition. There opens up that that really beautiful West Coast.
But I added quite some water. I think I'm down to 40 or 45 or something like that.
Yeah, it's hard to savour whiskey once you put too much water in, but this one is actually, I think it can take a bit of water.
I like it. It's pretty round now. Has a very nice bourbon cask to it, but it feels like a first fill bourbon cask.
Yes, probably a lot of them. You'll find out if you scan the code. The information is all in the barcode, in the QR code even. No, absolutely.
Oh, nice. What I also find nice is that you put so much thought into the distillery. And I've heard a bit like you started off with a cooling pond and now you installed, what was the
water minimizers,
water minimizer tower. And you've done so much. So what is it you're doing currently, or what did I miss in the...
So being sustainable isn't a flick that you switch. I mean, it's important to constantly try and improve what waste you're producing and what energy you're using and stuff like that. It's important. So that's ongoing. We have a green team at the distillery that work on new products all the time. So currently we're looking at enzyme cleaning rather as a caustic clean.
Enzyme cleaning?
Yes, enzyme cleaning, the equipment that was the distillery equipment.
It's like for the washbacks, you just spray them with enzymes?
So it's more to do with stills and the mash tun, if I understood it rightly.
Okay.
Yeah. So instead of using caustic cleaning that, they would use an enzyme prototype.
That I've never heard of.
And again, that's natural, you know. Yeah. And the waste products that we are so remote on the location where we are that we have to really work with the circular economy. And it's not hard because we have really great people and companies out here. We work really closely with renewable woodland renewables, which provide us with the biomass burner, like with the wood chip for the biomass burner. We also send our byproducts over to them. So the spent lees, which just comes off the stills, the pot ale, and that gets then cleaned over in their process plant, cleaned organically, and then put back out to nature. The other things that we do is we're very concerned about the materials that goes into our packaging. The bottles are made in the north of England and they're transported by train, not by lorries. We work with companies that have a very sustainable attitude in their mind. I mean, if you're a company in 2022, you have to have sustainability has to be in the front.
Yeah, the thing is, if you look at it now in terms of you are not using a gas boiler, so
No diesel. There isn't a diesel.
There's no diesel,
No.
there's no gas, so you're not being that hit. So kind of you have a bit of also a bit of more stability in there. So yeah, the thing is, what I always like to have is like when you have a method of being more environmentally friendly, it doesn't always have to be like you have to more cost there. If you bring your energy costs down, then usually your overall costs, economic wise, go down as well. So you might as well do it.
It works both ways. You're absolutely right. It balances itself out. If you and also if you can put money back into the environment, like the draft goes off and becomes animal feed pellets together with the pot ale, and that brings money into the peninsula as well. So you're always working at bringing a value back to the local economy. But it isn't cheap to be sustainable. I mean, the more we all work towards it, the more distilleries that are working towards it, having biomass or green hydrogen. There's a distillery in green hydrogen now. The more we work towards that, the cheaper it will get. The more Probably, but I mean, if you ask our guys, they sometimes find that the biomass boiler it's too much maintenance, and they would happily have a diesel one, but they understand the reason why we don't. So it's important because of the area we're in, and also we don't want to.
Yeah, but I think a whiskey distillery in an area is quite good because you have the whole thing with the cattle, with feed, and you have sometimes you use it as fertilizer as well. So and you get in the barley, and so a distillery in an area is actually, I think, pretty good.
Well, absolutely. I mean, we're looking at the enzymes, but we're also looking at the ash that comes out of the burner. We are looking to use to fertilize a local restaurant that grow their own vegetables. So we're looking at giving them the ash to put on their vegetable beds.
Okay, so as a fertilizer.
Yeah, it's there's some sort of components in there. I'm not great at growing vegetables, but there's some components in ash that makes it really. I think it's for tomatoes.
Well, that's up for them.
Yeah, well, they were interested, and I was happy. But if we have something they can use, and they are 2 kilometers away, I mean, hello, couldn't be any better.
Yeah, the thing is, having something 2 kilometers away from here is special.
It's perfect because we're so far from everything. Yeah, no, it's true.
So a nice remote distillery. So do you do tours? Can I recommend people coming here?
Yeah, we do, absolutely.
You do? Okay.
Monday to Friday all year round. Actually, Monday to Friday in the low season, and then Monday to Saturday all year, the rest of the year.
Okay, and so recommendation is drive from Inverness, or
so you really can do. You can come both ways. You can do the ferry route or the long route, which is the Glenfinnan Viaduct, which is the Harry Potter train.
Oh, so you can go Inverness, then you can Nessie and
Glenfinnan,
Harry Potter, and then you have you.
Do you know what? You can also do a trip to Isle of Mull and then take the ferry from Malt to Kilhone, which is a local village, and then come here and then do Ben Nevis Distillery. So you would do like Tobermory, us, and Ben Nevis.
Fort William is around there as well.
Yeah, Fort William is there as well, and then you're not that far from Oban. And Knockneen, I mean, as the crow flies, Knockneen is our closest neighbour. But if you to drive there is an hour and a half, 2 hours, because the roads are rough. By sea, 20 minutes. We can just jump on a boat and be there in 20.
Yeah, but there's no direct to Knockneen, it's just to Mull. Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
But okay, so you are reachable.
Yeah. People that make their effort to come out here will be greeted warmly. Okay. We actually get about 8,000 to 10,000 visitors a year. So we do have a busy
Okay, but you don't have to pre-book like something like that?
We're actually, we've decided to have a pre-booking system. So you can pre-book, but you can also just show up.
Okay, good.
We've got 2 tours. One tour you have to pre-book because it's a bit more in-depth. But if you just come to visit us on the day, there's usually a tour every hour. It's all on the website or on our social media. Please follow us.
Yeah, you can find them. So, thank you for all the information. Thank you for the whiskey, and thank you for showing us around.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
That was so lovely. Yeah, and thank you very much for watching. And if you found this video interesting, then please feel free to share this video with your friends. And see you next time.